lead us kindly in Mangacharana today. Chandin Pandit Mataji, would you kindly take us through the Mangacharana today?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji, kindly go ahead. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshururmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Thank you, my Professor Mataji, for that beautiful Charana. And thank you all the assembled devotees and those who are yet to join. Please accept our humble obeisances. And now I will want to invite Panchali Kar Mataji to take us through. Today we are going through Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, verse 3. Please accept our obeisances and over to you, Mataji. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Please accept my humble obeisances, you, Prabhuji, and all of you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much once again for giving me the opportunity to do the service. Apologies. I missed the first bit of the Mangalacharan, so thank you very much for that. So I offer my prayers to my Guru, and Govinda and Radharani and Krishna, and ask for their mercy to be able to bless me to be able to share this and do the service properly. I offer my obeisances to all of you to bless me so that whatever comes out through me is the words is correct words and according to Guru and Shastra. We are doing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8 and verse 3. So I read the verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kathaya Sva Mahapaga Yataham Akilatmani Krishna Nivasyani Nihasangam Manastyakshe Kalevaram. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O greatly fortunate Shukadeva Goswami, please continue narrating Srimad Bhagavatam so that I can place my mind upon the Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna, and being completely freed from material qualities, thus relinquish this body. Purport: to be fully engaged in hearing the transcendental narration described in the text of Srimad Bhagavatam means to constantly associate with the Supreme Soul, Shri Krishna. And to constantly associate with the Supreme Lord Krishna means to be liberated from the qualities of matter. Lord Krishna is like the sun, and material contamination is like darkness. As the presence of the sun dissipates darkness, constant engagement in the association of Lord Shri Krishna frees one from the contamination of the material qualities. Contamination by the material qualities is the cause of repeated birth and death, and liberation from material qualities is transcendence. Maharaj Parikshit was now a realized soul by the secret of liberation through the grace of Sukadeva Goswami, for the latter had informed the king that the highest perfection of life is to be in remembrance of Narayana at the end of his life. Maharaja Parikshit was destined to give up his body at the end of 7 days, and thus he decided to continue remembering the Lord by his association with the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, and thus to quit his body in full consciousness of the presence of Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Soul. So hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam performed by professional men is different from the transcendental hearing of Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit was a soul realized in the absolute truth, Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. The fruitive materialist is not a realized soul. He wants to derive some material benefit from his so-called hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. Undoubtedly, such an audience hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the professional men can derive some material benefit as they desire. But that does not mean that such a pretense of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam for a week is as good as hearing of Maharaj Parikshit. It is the duty of the saint to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a self-realized soul and not be duped by professional men. One should continue such hearing till the end of one's life, so that one can actually have the transcendental association of the Lord, and thus be liberated simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Maharaj Parikshit had already given up all his connections with his kingdom and family, the most attractive features of materialism, but still he was conscious of his material body. He wanted to be free of such bondage also by constant association of the Lord. Mama Gyana Timaranthyasya Gyana Janashalakaya Chakshurim Militam Yena Tashmai Sri Guruve Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shinivadi Pashtata Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, thank you, Mataji and Prabhuji, again for giving me the opportunity to do this service. So we are doing a really nice canto. Well, all the cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are really good, but we've entered into another wonderful chapter. Now we are in only the third verse, and I'd like to start discussing about this by reading the couple of lines in the middle of the purport. It has been highlighted as well. So it says, Lord Krishna is like the sun, and material contamination is like darkness. As the presence of the sun dissipates darkness, constant engagement in the association of Lord Shri Krishna frees one from the contamination of material qualities. That is the key thing. That is the key message being given to us through all the Shastras, over and over again in various ways, as also in our verse today. Now let's start with the pastime of the very, very exalted devotee Surdas, Bhakta Surdas. You may know him already. He was a blind poet, and he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Now, history has it that he used to visit the temple every single day. And although he was completely blind, every single day he would be able to say exactly what the deities were wearing. He would be able to say everything, no matter how many times the deities were, their clothes and attire was changed. Surdas would be able to say exactly what the deities were wearing, the color of the dresses, and the material, everything. And so the devotees and the priests at the temple, they thought that, oh, Surdas, I think he's actually lying. I think he's able to understand, he's able to see properly. It's just that he's lying. So one day, just to test Surdas, because they knew Surdas would come to the temple at one, at a point of time. So just to test Surdas, just before Surdas came to the temple, they brought the deities, but on that day they did not dress the deities at all. And then they asked Surdas, so Surdas, tell us what the deities are wearing today. And Surdas just smiled and said, why haven't you dressed the deities today? You've brought the deities outside. And the deities, they should be, my Radha and Krishna, they should be wearing the best of dresses. They are meeting lots of people now. You should quickly go and then dress them up quickly. And that was Surdas. So then the priests understood that yes, he was blind, but there was something special, because they tested him in so many other ways, and they ensured that he really was blind. And then they tested that nobody was actually giving him the information. And then they found that, when they tested him with this, that they didn't dress the deities, but he was still able to say that the deities were not dressed on the day. They understood what a great devotee he is. So where did that light of revelation come to Surdas? And we come to what we read just now. The Lord is like the sun, and he dissipates all the darkness. He dissipated the darkness, the blindness, the material blindness of Surdas, and he gave him the light through his heart, because Surdas, as a devotee, always remembered the Lord. He was always talking to the Lord, and the Lord is always with us. That is something which we completely forget all the time, that the Lord is constantly with us. He's there as Paramatma within us, but we forget that. And we look for the Lord all over. It's absolutely fine to go to the temples or go to the dhams, but we very often forget that we have our own body as a temple, because the Lord is residing within us. And so through exalted devotees, the Lord gives us examples time and over again, that the light, that we can be enlightened from within. Yes, there is Guru. We won't be able to do that by ourselves. We would need the help of our Guru and Shastras. But once we are ready, once we have endeavored to want to find out about the Lord will be the nearest and the dearest to us. And just like the Lord revealed to blind, so does everything about what around him. He didn't need the material eyes, because he had eyes within to be able to know everything. Similarly, that is what we have to try and do. We won't be able to follow the great personalities. There is the what Prabhupada says in one of his purports, that don't try to follow the devotees, but follow the directions, follow the instructions given by the devotees. So it's like there's the word acharan. So don't hold the charan. Charan means feet. So don't hold on to the feet of the gurus or the exalted devotees, but do acharan. Acharan, follow their instructions, follow what they're trying to do. And then you will be able to, try and, get to the path that they are showing us. And that brings us to our verse today, because this verse, again, it is not something new that is being told to us in this verse today. The message given in this verse has been given to us in Bhagavad Gita, has been given to us all in Canto 1 through various instances, Canto 2 through the various incarnations we've read about. It's the same message being given to us over and over again. So the 4 or 5 different things being touched upon in this verse is Parikshit Maharaj asking Sukdev Goswami to tell him more. So that's what it says, Sukdev Goswami is asked by Parikshit Maharaj to keep on narrating the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's one thing that's touched upon in this verse. Secondly, the importance of hearing. How important is hearing about the Lord, and where does that lead to? That is touched upon here. And by doing so, by hearing, what happens? What are the consequences of, or rather the good consequences of hearing about the Lord? It also reflects about Parikshit Maharaj and, like him, all exhausted devotees. And lastly, it reminds us once again about the goal of life. So these are various things, again, touched upon in this verse all together, as has been in very many previous verses as well. So nothing completely new, but it tells us once again how important it is for the same message to be reiterated over and over and over again, because we are such conditioned souls that we have completely forgotten the goal of life. We have, no matter how many times we are reminded, we are drawn towards Maya, we are drawn towards and drawn down towards that material energy. So we have to be reminded, especially in Kali Yuga, over and over again, which Srimad Bhagavatam does perfectly, as we see in this verse again. So just as a backdrop, so in the previous chapter, we see Lord Brahma clearly establishing, and there's a class by Sri Vallabha Prabhu and Kartikeya Prabhu, who's given some wonderful teachings around this verse and around Bhagavad Gita, which touches upon quite a few points that is covered in this verse. So if you do get a chance of listening to their teachings again, please do. So that's Sri Vallabha Prabhu and Kartikeya Prabhu. In the previous chapter, Lord Brahma clearly establishes the supremacy of the Lord, and how Lord Krishna is the absolute truth. And he does that through various incarnations as and mentions that to Narad Muni, who wanted to know about them. And all Parikshit Maharaj listens to all of that, because at the end of the day, it was also Sukhdev Goswami telling Parikshit Maharaj. And within the dialogue of Sukhdev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, we come to the dialogue of Lord Brahma and Narad Muni, because as is very, very common in Shastras, we see dialogues within dialogues within dialogues. We see, we see the Mahabharata as well, where the dialogue, we see the dialogue of Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra, and then we see the dialogue within the dialogue of Arjuna and Lord Krishna. So we hear about pastime, the Lord's pastimes. Apologies, I think it's this thing. Now, we have to remember, so Parikshit Maharaj is listening to all of this very, very enthusiastically. We're only in Canto 2, so it's probably only day 2 of the last 7 days of Parikshit Maharaj's life. But even, just in day 2, we see how fascinated and interested Parikshit Maharaj is, and he's totally engaged, totally absorbed, so much so that he's asking Sukhdev Goswami over here again to keep continuing to tell him more and more about the Lord. Now we see, let's think about the setting over there. We have hundreds of very, very elevated personalities sitting in the audience. Vyasadev, Narad Muni, lots of great sages. We have read about them earlier in the Bhagavatam. So lots and lots of very, very elevated devotees sitting over there, coming from different planets, different planetary systems, coming just to hear Sukhdev Goswami say Srimad Bhagavatam to Lord, to Parikshit Maharaj. And they were all there, and there was Sukhdev Goswami glorifying the Lord. So the total scene with so many great personalities over there, all sitting, that scene, as Prabhuji was saying, that scene must be electrifying, full of vibration and electrifying. And yet it was totally sublime. It was very, very peaceful. Now, when we think about, something having a very electrifying effect, we think about concerts, big concerts where big names are there and everyone is sitting in anticipation, and there's sound, there's a bit of craziness here and there. So and that is lots of light and glitz and glamour, all of that in that electrifying atmosphere, because there are great personalities supposed to be performing. And here we see the great performance of, the Lord's names being told to Parikshit Maharaj, so many great sages sitting around, and yet all of this happening so peacefully. So in such a sublime condition. And that is how it should be, because we are drawn again and again and again to the fact that hearing is important. But how should we hear? This is only one part of hearing. Hearing that has many, many different dimensions. But one of the dimensions of hearing is the atmosphere. Is the atmosphere good, conducive to listen to the Lord? You cannot listen to the Lord in a supermarket and try to concentrate completely on that. So we are being told, because hearing is one of the things being mentioned over here in this verse again, and the importance of hearing. The first thing around hearing we are reminded of again is that, it has to be conducive to, or conducive atmosphere, to be able to hear about the Lord properly with respect. Now, we'll come to more about hearing later, but we touch a little bit upon something else that the verse touches upon. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking Sukdev Goswami and requesting him to say more and more about the Lord. Now, Shastras tell us that there are two ways to find information, whether it's Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, from Shastras, from any devotees who are able to give knowledge to us. So there are two words. There is Prashna and there is Jigyasa. So we are advised to go with the latter. So what is Prashna? Prashna is asking questions. But what is Jigyasa? Jigyasa is also asking question. But there is a very, very subtle difference between the two. So you get Prashna in your exams. You get questions in your exams where you are asked questions to test your knowledge. You are asked, it's just a give and take things. We are asking questions, give us the knowledge, and we are actually testing you about the knowledge. However, when we say jigyasa, which is also asking question, jigyasa is wanting to know in something, wanting to learn. So it's acquiring knowledge for the purpose of learning. So that is the difference between Prashna and Jigyasa. And when we are learning Shastras, when we are learning, wanting to find out about the Lord, which we have to do from gurus, from our gurus, because we are not qualified, and I can only speak for myself, we are not qualified to find the answers ourselves. Our approach towards our guru in finding out more about the Lord should be as jigyasa, wanting to learn from the knowledge that is going to be given through the question that I ask, rather than wanting to test my guru. That, okay, so in a different class, I heard another Prabhuji say this. Let me check if this Shiksha Guru or my Diksha Guru knows about it. Does it say the same thing? So testing is not the purpose, because that is not the way to find out about the Lord. And Parikshit Maharaj, when he's asking Sukdev Goswami more and more and more questions, he's not asking easy questions to Sukdev Goswami, but they are all very relevant questions, relevant to around the topic of the Lord. And he's asking them only because he wants to know more about the Lord, not because he's testing Sukdev Goswami. And that's something else which we are being told over here. So as in Bhagavad Gita, similarly in Srimad Bhagavatam and in all the Shastras, we see these as Vedas. Vedas, they are all come from Vedas. Vedas is knowledge. So when we are given knowledge, it is the knowledge of God, but we are given knowledge to live our daily life in this material world. So we see so many life lessons being given to us, even when we are learning about the Lord. We are being encouraged to put a parallel into our day-to-day lives so that we can apply the learning in our day-to-day life as well. And that's the whole purpose of the Shastras. We find out about the goal of life, we find out about the Lord, and we won't be able to turn into a new leaf overnight and become a self-realized soul. But through child steps, slowly and slowly applying what we learn from the great personalities, applying those teachings into our day-to-day life, we will slowly be guided towards the right path and following the right path. So this is again what is being told. So hearing, yes, one of the things, but also the way we need to ask questions when we are inquiring about the absolute truth. or inquiring about anything, inquire with humility, not to test the person you're asking questions from. So we see Sukhdev Goswami goes into to discuss elaborate topics about the Lord. The atmosphere, we were talking about the atmosphere before, it is electrifying. It's like, you know, when we have two players and each one of them complementing the other until they reach the perfect crescendo. So one asking questions about the Lord, you know, with more and more eagerness, and that is encouraging Sukhdev Goswami to talk more and more about the Lord. So, you know, sometimes it may be our questions may be asked when, you know, it's a bit dampening. But here, Parikshit Maharaj was showing so much enthusiasm, asking more questions about the Lord. That was helping Sukhdev Goswami to talk more about the Lord as well. So the subject and the topic of the Lord, you know, allowing this engagement of two great personality is again what is being what we are being told about in this verse, that, you know, these two great devotees, and that is what devotion is all about. When we are hearing about the Lord, when we are talking about the Lord, that is the kind of enthusiasm we need to have. It mustn't be lackluster. Oh, it is not a daily duty where we have to have tick boxes and we put tick marks against it. Yes, I've talked about the Lord today. Yes, I have heard about the Lord today, and that is it. So it's not a tick box exercise at all. But when we are hearing about the Lord, when we are talking about the Lord, we have to ensure that there is that enthusiasm in us, which allows, which tells us that we are really interested. And why is that so? Why is that so? Because we hear that we know from, you know, from what, you know, in one of the classes, and I love to say this over and over again, and where Maharaj was saying that, you know, when we talk about Krishna, even before there is anybody coming to hear us, Radharani and Krishna, they come along. They are our first audience. They come along and they listen to us even before anybody else comes to, whether they listen to us or not. That is not their problem. Just the fact that we are wanting to discuss about Radha and Krishna, wanting to remember them, that makes Radha and Krishna so happy that they are our first audience. And they love to hear about themselves from us, because they and you know, they take they love. We know how much they love us. They love all of us. We are all Krishna's children, and he's impartial. But as he says, that he has that special feeling for his devotees. Whether we are devotees or, you know, I can again only speak for myself, that, you know, I can't even call myself a devotee, but just the fact that, you know, we are talking about them, they are very, very eager to listen to us. So we have to be just like Parikshit Maharaj and Sukhdev Goswami are teaching us. We really have to be enthusiastic when talking or hearing about them. Now, how is the other thing which is being mentioned in this verse is how is Parikshit Maharaj hearing or listening? He's listening in humility. And there's one thing through the incarnations, various incarnations touched upon in the previous verse, whether it's Gajendra, who was, you know, Gajendra, when he was caught by the crocodile, Gajendra could feel his life dissipating slowly, his life air literally leaving him very, very slowly. He could feel so how much agony he must have been in. But being a devotee, he remembered the Lord, and he offered that flower, and the Lord came running. So even in distress, he remembered the Lord. We see Prahlad Maharaj, he was constantly subjected to life-threatening situations at such a tender age. But was he anxious? No, all he did was just remember the Lord. We see the same thing with Dhruva Maharaj, again at a very tender age. He had to leave home. And he started praying to the Lord. He was tried, even Narad Muni wanted to dissuade him, saying, you're too young to do this. But no, he didn't want to do that. He continued his prayers. So in all these great devotees, as is Maharaj Parikshit, he knew he was cursed. He is a great he's the emperor of the world. Now he could practically have called anyone to come and protect him from the snake bird. Not just an army of soldiers, but he could have called an army of sages to come and protect him. He himself was such a great devotee, he could have easily reversed the curse, but he didn't do that. He was, regardless of the circumstances and the motivations or whatever comes across to these devotees, the one striking thing that stands out is that each and every single of these elevated devotees remember Krishna in the challenging times. And that is again what we are being told again and again. Just the fact that Parikshit Maharaj was asking so enthusiastically to Sukdev Goswami to talk about the Lord reminds us again that this is, he only has a few days to leave. But look at him, he's just so enthusiastic, even in such a time. Where is anxiety? There's no anxiety in him. All he was doing is trying to remember the Lord. And that's what Prahlad Maharaj says as well, that the only thing that kept him going, that fearless, complete, total absence of fear, that total fearlessness was only because he remembered the Lord. So remembering the Lord is one of the things, again, being mentioned over here, reminded to us over here in this verse. And the Lord even says in the Bhagavad Gita, he reminds us that in chapter 8, verse 6, the Lord says that, whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone, me at once attains my nature. That's what the Lord says in Gita 8.6. And that is exactly what we see Parikshit Maharaj is doing. So he's a perfect example of that. And how do we do that? I mean, it's easy to say, remember the God, remember Krishna at all times. We see the example of Ajamil. He remembered Narayan, but only because he didn't want to. But he remembered his young son, who he called Narayan. So he just called out his young son Narayan. And even then, the Vishnudutas came and they fought off the Yamadutas just because he called Narayan. So we see the power of just the name of the Lord. And we know that there is zero difference between the Lord and his names. But it's so easy to say that, remember Krishna at all times. Remember Krishna during the times of distress. Most of the time, during times of distress, we end up blaming Krishna, that why did this happen to me? Why me, Krishna? Not many people can be as elevated devotees as Kunti Devi, who wanted more distress so that she could remember Krishna more. But most people during challenging times, they get very anxious, and they're anything but peaceful. And many a times, if things don't go the way they want, they end up, regretting, oh, why is it me? Complaining, blaming, and all other things. So it is, how do we really remember Krishna? How do we follow the example of Parikshit Maharaj? And Krishna himself gives us the answer again in in Bhagavad Gita 8.8, he says, Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetashananya gamina paramam purusham divyam yati partanu chintyanam. Or, translating, he who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. So Krishna is saying, he who meditates on me, abhyasa, practices meditating on him constantly, then he is very likely to remember him. It is, well, we know practice makes people perfect. So we keep on practicing to remember Krishna. It's not easy. We've had millions and billions and zillions of lifetime of forgetting Krishna, with our souls contaminated with the dirt of material nature and material energy. So we just have to practice and practice. And how can we practice? The best way to do, as in our Yoga Dharma says, chanting the names of the Lord. Yes, we chant the names of the Lord sitting and meditating, but why not in every single thing we do? We remember the Lord when we are walking, talking to others. It could be chanting in your mind. If you're making food, you're remembering Krishna. Radharani was a great food. So this is one thing which I've started doing when I cook burger. So I try to meditate on Radharani nowadays, because she was a great cook, and she and as the pastime goes, she was blessed by Durvasa Muni to be a great cook, and whoever had the food that she ate would never fall ill. And we know how Mother Yashoda told Radharani to always cook for Krishna, which Radharani loved anyway, and which Krishna loved. But Radharani is a great cook. She's a great musician, great dancer. So when I'm doing bhoga, I pray to Radharani, saying, just tell me what you guide me how to cook, so that Krishna loves it. So in everything we do, we try to. It's not easy, but we can try to do that. And chanting helps as well. Not just sitting and chanting, but in anything you do, even under your breath, the constant chanting. We see now, why are we doing this? What is the purpose of these Srimad Bhagavatam verses, reminding us over and over of the importance of hearing about the Lord, the importance of remembering the Lord? And, as Parikshit Maharaj is saying in this verse, that by remembering and by hearing about the Lord, I can completely free myself of the material qualities when relinquishing this body. So he's saying, when I leave this material body, I don't want to be under the clutches of Maya anymore. And the more I hear about the Lord and remember the Lord, I know I will be free from that. So why is Bhagavatam reminding us over and over, right from the first verse, and now we are in, Canto 2, telling us about the same thing in so many different ways, because Bhagavatam is, again, leading us or telling us or trying to point us towards the goal of life. And what is the goal of life? The goal of life is to break the cycle of birth and death, not to return this birth. Otherwise, if we have a lot of karma, good karma or bad karma in our bank, in our life bank, we will have to come back to this material world in whichever body we are in. That would depend on our last thoughts whilst leaving the material body, and that would be based on our karma. But if there is karma, there is going to be returning and returning and returning in this material world, and that is what we want to break. So the goal of life, the Bhagavatam, through telling us to remember the Lord at all times, is asking us to break this to break this cycle of birth and death, because that is the ultimate goal of life. And how can we do that? How can we break that karmic cycle? By remembering the Lord, by hearing about the Lord, by chanting about the Lord. How? By tailoring or dovetailing everything that we do towards Krishna, or keeping Krishna at the center. It doesn't matter what we are doing. We have to, as Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was complaining away in the first chapter. He was saying, Krishna, I don't want to fight. These are my cousins, my relatives, my friends. I will be accruing sins if I fight them. And even if I win the battle, what is the point? Because they won't be around to enjoy the kingdom with. And Krishna counteracts his answers with his by giving him knowledge, by saying, if you do not do your swadharma is being a kshatriya. That is, and the kshatriya's dharma is to fight adharma, is to protect oneself and your subjects, your kingdom, and you need to fight, and by not fighting you will be accruing sins. And do your work, Krishna, Arjuna, just do your work, forget about the results. That famous verse would say, what was it? Karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Do your work, Arjuna, without attaching yourself to the results. Because if you do your dharma, if you do your prescribed duties, you will be just, doing what I want. And what makes Krishna happy by default makes us happy. And how is that? We know the example Prabhupada gives so many times, that if you water the roots of a tree, every part of the tree automatically flourishes. It's so much better than trying to just water the fruit or just the leaf or just the flowers, because that is not going to do anything. You water the root, everything flourishes. So we have to understand that we are spirit souls, all connected to the super soul, all connected to Krishna. We are not individual. Our identity is Krishna's Nitya Das, the servant of Krishna, and the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. So when we say servant, at the end of the day, devotion, doing service, what does that all translate to? It all translates to loving Krishna. And if you love Krishna as my own, he is my own, and then we will remember him at all times. We will remember Radha. When we remember Krishna, we cannot separate him and Radharani. And we can only remember Radharani and Krishna when we think of him as or think of them as our own. And we know that we are part and parcel of them. So if we do things to make them happy, automatically we will be happy. If we try to do things only to make us happy, that happiness is temporary, because that happiness is only for our material senses. It can satisfy our eating, our taste, our touch, our smell, our eyes, or, our mind, our intelligence. So it can satisfy our subtle body or our gross body. But if by satisfying the material senses, that kind of sense gratification only gives us temporary happiness. And that is not even happiness, that is just the absence of distress. What truly gives us happiness is when we give happiness to the soul. And how is the soul happy? Our soul can only be happy when the super soul is happy. Because we all come from the super soul. So when the super soul is watered or the super soul is happy, that Sat Chit Ananda, that bliss automatically trickles down to the individual spirit souls. And that's a permanent, eternal happiness. And that is what we should aspire for. And that comes by wanting to remember the Lord at all times, wanting to hear about the Lord, wanting to talk about the Lord, wanting to share things about the Lord at all times. And most importantly, as Krishna says right at the end of Bhagavad Gita in chapter 18, even if you forget everything, Arjuna, even if you forget all the knowledge I've given you, just surrender unto me. Sarvadharman parityajan mam ekam sharanam vraja. Just surrender unto me, Arjuna. That is all you have to do. And what does surrendering translate into? Loving the Lord so much that you have complete, total, blind faith in him, that nobody loves me as much as Krishna does. And so I love him just as much. And everything I do, I have complete faith that he's going to do the best for me, because nobody loves me as much as he does. So that is completely surrendering. And that is what Parikshit Maharaj is wanting to do. And Prabhupada warns us in the purport over here, that when you are hearing about the Lord, you have to hear it from people like, exalted devotees like Sukhdev Goswami, not professional people. And what does Prabhupada means by professional people? He means people who are, just wanting name and fame and gain out of, and talking about the Lord a business. Talking about the Lord is not a business. It is our dharma. It's the natural thing. It's not something to make money off. So Prabhupada is warning us about, hearing about the Lord from people who want to make it business. And he uses the word professional people over here. So we have to be very careful that we have a bona fide guru, bona fide teacher, Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, who can guide us, to whom we can do our jigyasa, just as Parikshit Maharaj is asking question in humility, with the only purpose of wanting to completely surrender unto the Lord. And remember the Lord at all times, right till the end, right till we give up our material body, which is inevitable for all living entities in this material world. But it is so whether we are here in this material world, whether, like Parikshit Maharaj is leaving the body, at all circumstances, it is remembering the Lord, loving the Lord, having that complete faith in the Lord. And we go back to where we started. Why do we want to do that? Because the Lord is the sun. And he's the one who can take away the darkness from our heart. He's the one who can take us back to our original abode in the spiritual world, because that is where our real home is. So I finished today by another pastime of Parikshit, of Radha and Krishna. So there was in Vrindavan, there are just so many great devotees. And when you go to Vrindavan, there's you hear lots and lots and lots of local histories as well of great devotees. And one such history is of a devotee who worshipped the deity called Vrajvihari deity. And so one day, there was also a very, very rich businessman. And this businessman heard that the Vrajvihari deity, this deity, loved perfume. And in Indian term, it is called attar. Attar, have you heard the word? Has anyone heard the word attar?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, it is a perfume. So this businessman learned that Vrajvihari, the Lord loved this. So he was so rich, he got a lot of those attar, and he came to the temple. And the priest over there said, okay, so you've come with the attar. And he wanted to give the attar to the priest so that he can give that to the deity. And the priest said, have you actually gone and seen Haridas Baba? I think the name of the devotee was Haridas Baba, from what I remember from, this is Maharaj talking in one of the classes. And so this businessman, he said, no, I haven't, but I'll go and see him now. Haridas Baba, he was in meditation. He was in deep meditation. The devotee went there and he had the attar, that perfume, in a bowl, which he placed in front of the devotee. And he just waited for the devotee to break his meditation. And then a little bit later, he saw the devotee. He was just, in his meditation with his eyes closed. He was just looking for something around him. And then while trying to find things around him, he found that, bowl of attar, the bowl of perfume. He took that bowl and he was meditating by the side of River Yamuna. So he took that bowl and he threw that perfume in the Yamuna River, completely, all of the perfume. And then after a while, he broke his meditation. And then the wealthy businessman, and he was like, I have brought so much, I spent so much money in bringing this perfume, and he's just thrown it all in the Yamuna River. But anyway, because he was such a great devotee, he didn't ask anything to him, but he just paid his obeisances to the devotee. And the devotee said, oh, okay, go and take darshan of the Lord now. And then the businessman, he got up and then he started walking towards the temple. And then as he was walking towards the temple, he saw in the breeze, he could smell that perfume. He passed through trees, in the leaves and flowers, he could smell that perfume he had brought. He was passing fields, he was passing, in anything that he was seeing in the land, whether it was an object, it was tree, it was grass, it was air, he could smell that perfume everywhere. And then he was thinking, what is happening? What is happening? So he then reached the temple. He went inside and he saw the deities and he could smell that perfume coming off the deities. The whole atmosphere was full of that perfume. And then he rushed back to the devotee and he said, what's happened? Because I saw you throw that perfume, that bowl of perfume in the river, in Yamuna River. How is it that all over Rajasthan, I can smell this perfume, even from the deities? I brought the perfume for the deities, but I can see now. I can smell that the deities had them on them. They had the perfume on them. So what is it? So then the devotee said, look, these are inside knowledge. We are not supposed to tell anybody, but anyway, because you're asking, I'm sharing with you. So when when I was meditating, I was obviously was in the spiritual world, and he was part of the a leela between Radharani and Krishna, and they were playing with each other, throwing, and it was the holy time, and they were throwing water and colors at each other. And at one point, Krishna had thrown a lot of color all over Radharani. And then Radharani told, because Radharani wanted to get back to Krishna as well. So she told all her Sakhis that, oh, whatever, just grab some, color and whatever you get, just get it all together. Let's throw it all to Krishna. So when you had, so this devotee was telling the businessman that I was I was in meditation, I was listening to Radharani. She was asking us to find something to throw to Krishna. So I just found that bowl in front of me, and so I threw it, and that was what I threw to Krishna. And what Radharani did was, so in other words, what it actually translates into is that, with the mercy of Radharani, because she is the Adi Guru. The love, when we say loving Krishna, surrendering to Krishna, we have to go through Radharani, because she's the epitome of bhakti. Without the mercy of Radharani, we won't be able to get the mercy of Krishna. So what Radharani does is, even if it's a little bit of love we share towards Krishna, she spreads it all over Krishna, and she makes it big. She makes it, and that is how, she helps us. She helps us in getting the love of Krishna. So yes, we can endeavor. We have to show that endeavor of wanting to surrender to Krishna, wanting to love Krishna. We mustn't forget Radharani, because Radharani, our Guru, our Radharani, she takes that little bit of our endeavor or our loves, and she splashes it all over Krishna, and tries to woo Krishna to be merciful towards us as well. And that is how we need to practice bhakti, and that is how eagerly we need to surrender unto them. And that brings us to our verse today of Parikshit Maharaj, wanting to hear, wanting so eagerly to learn, wanting to know more and more about Krishna, forgetting his own condition and totally being in that transcendental world, teaching us that that is how we must remember Krishna and Radharani at all times. So I finished the thing over here. If I've made any mistakes, please forgive me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for that beautiful session. I know you're past time, and I had two questions, but I'll just ask one. Okay, the second one is, I'll ask you the next time, is how maybe you meditate on Radharani, but I'm sure I'll just keep it for the next time you're here. Anyway, thank you very much for that beautiful. My question was when the Srimad Bhagavatam says we learn from professional men, and these professional men, sometimes the gurus are very few and there's no one to guide, but there's the book itself with the purpose of Srila Prabhupada. You can, when somebody reads the Srimad Bhagavatam with the purpose of Srila Prabhupada, can that be termed as also being guided by an authentic guru, or it's also because they're not there? Can it be, yes? Is it just reading the Srimad Bhagavatam with the purpose? Is that authentic, or you actually need a live guru to tell you? Yes.
Sorry, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for your question. I think you're breaking up, so I'm not sure if I wasn't able to understand the whole question, but if I'm not wrong, you're asking that the Srimad Bhagavatam and the purports that are written by Prabhupada, sometimes we are not able to understand them directly. So do we need a guru as well? Now, Prabhupada wrote them for all of us. It is very difficult because first of all, you will see that all of Prabhupada's books has, as it is, Bhagavad Gita as it is. So these are directly the words of Krishna without any personal interpretation at all. Prabhupada has clarified them further and made them easier for us to understand. Now, again, people who are enlightened and advanced in devotion, they may be able to understand, but we all have to read them, because reading and hearing from Guru both come hand in hand. If we are able to, like we are doing now, we are reading them ourselves, but we are also listening to the teachings of others. So that both go together, Prabhuji, but they can be mutually exclusive as well, because there might be enlightened devotees who are are able to grasp the whole knowledge just by reading Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada has written it in so easy words that they are, most of the time they're self-explanatory, but many a times it's not, especially someone, and again, I speak only for myself, that for me, reading plus also listening to the teachings of the Gurus help. But what is encouraged by all the Gurus is that, keep reading, and the knowledge will come. Krishna will give you, Krishna will talk to you from within, because, as we know, we have our Chaitya Guru as well. So Krishna will enlighten from within. So you might think that, you might have heard something in a class which was not clear to you once, twice, 3 times, and you come and read Prabhupada's book, it becomes clarified. So I would say both go hand in hand, Prabhuji, but that doesn't mean that you cannot just read. We have many, especially in the UK, we have many groups just reading the Srimad Bhagavatam every single day for half an hour. And that is useful because the words are so powerful. Just reading them is beneficial. I don't know if that answers, Prabhuji. Sorry, I don't know if that answers.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Continue reading with enthusiasm as your advice. Very much. And now open up to anyone else with a comment or a clarification. And then maybe I can ask Chandin Pandit Mataji, kindly you can end the session for us if there is no comments or a clarification from the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Maybe Chandni Mataji might not be able to do that. I can end the session. Thank you very much, Mataji. You took us from Surdas and again all the way around to Vrindavan and into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Thank you for today's session. Let us all unmute and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to glorify Mataji. Sorry, we've taken a little longer than expected. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaiva pattanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Her Grace Panchali Kar Mataji ki jai.
Thank you much.
Bhagavad ki jai. Grantraj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you
very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.